Oh, error done. Go live occurred the moment. Wait again. Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to our Wednesday weekly question and answers with 12 Ronnies. We've got Bill Murray answering questions today, and Christopher Norris. And today's format, we're going to look at some questions that we put aside that we think are burning questions that we should address to help people understand about their ideas and about discovery, customer discovery and idea validation. But we want to be able to answer them from 2 points of view today. So one is from a mentoring point of view. How would a mentor approach these questions? And how would an expert coach in idea validation in customer discovery answer these questions? Because it's a slightly different view. So, gentlemen, I'm going to start first of all with the mentoring approach to these questions. So I've got five questions. And so for the first question, which I've already posted up here, which is, tell me about the observation step. What kinds of tactics work and don't work? Chris, as a mentor, if a mentee asked you this sort of question, how would you approach it?
Well, I think the thing is that it's a very active and dynamic exercise. There are lots of things that are involved with doing field work and, running experiments, that kind of thing. So I think as a mentor, you'd need to have in place, make sure you're on the same page as the mentee, to make sure they're open-minded enough and committed enough to actually do the work to do this kind of dynamic exercise. Because things that don't work, which I'm sure Bill will go into detail, are things like running kind of remote surveys and just doing online research and things, because that's just third-party stuff. You need to be actually doing first-person engagement.
Well, let's go to Bill. Bill, so you're a coach in customer discovery and idea validation. So this is sort of question that you may get, and how would you approach this?
Yeah, the customer discovery step here it's a step, but you never stop, talking to your customers. You never stop observing them. So you want to make sure that, at least initially though, but initially it's the first thing that you do. It's understanding problems first. Understand the problem first, because as an entrepreneur, you want to fall in love with a problem, not a solution. Fall in love with that problem, understand the customer and the context in which they experience that problem. And that is your success metric to move from this initial step. Still observing customers, but getting the data that you need to be able to continue forward.
Great, thanks, Bill. And the slide that we've put up here, comes under customer empathy, I guess, understanding customers' problems. And so the first part of the slide is really this is about customer empathy, and as both Chris and Bill have talked about, it's understanding problems in the context there. Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen. I'm going to put up the next question, so which will be under insight generation on the tab. So again, Chris, from a mentor's point of view.
Okay. Go on.
From a mentor's point of view, Chris, with respect to insights, what's the difference between data and insights? So if you've got that question from a mentee, how would you approach that?
At a kind of top line level, data is essentially collecting information, and insights is the analysis of the data that you collect. So from a mentoring point of view, you again have to encourage people to be agile and receptive to changes and flexible and be able to pivot, that kind of thing. And I think the key thing is to wait long enough until you've got enough data to actually start drawing some conclusions. So that the key thing is actually to stop people rushing ahead from a mentoring point of view, and to make sure you've got the correct data and enough data to be able to make the right decisions.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks very much. And Bill, from your point of view, and this is the second part of on the slide here in insight generation, How would you approach this as a validation coach?
Yeah, so insights is a very misused word. People use the word data and insights interchangeably. Oh, hey, that's a great insight. No, actually, it wasn't necessarily a great insight. It was just a great piece of data. Insights are the why of all the what, and the what is your data. The why is the insight. The insight is that new thing that you believe based on putting all the data together and mixing it and understanding something maybe even better than your customer does. So being able to being able to have really great insights that are testable is your sort of graduation from this step. And as Chris said, making sure you got the right data so that you have strong insights that are testable, that are sort of those epiphany aha moments. That's what we want to coach people to, is to go out on a limb, take that leap of faith. Hey, I think this is happening because, and then that's the thing that propels you forward very rapidly.
Thanks. And I guess also, data doesn't give you an action to take, does it?
No.
It's just there. Whereas the insight you draw from the data gives you the chance to take an action on this.
Yeah, data says what, insights tell you why, and then as we look to the next step, then what do we do with that why?
I think another thing you could do once you've got some insights is to go and get some more data.
Yeah.
Before you launch, you may have made some assumptions. So,
well, I think that's the crux of what entrepreneurs should be doing, which is experimenting, which is testing hypotheses, which is collecting the data to either prove or disprove a hypothesis. And this is where these insights come from the data that we draw, and then what actions do we take. So it actually moves nicely on to the next question. Is this the next question?
Yeah.
Yep. Next question. So Chris, if a mentee asks this, what makes a good opportunity space? What would your approach be?
This is essentially if you think about the blue ocean shift model, then essentially you're looking at what is the marketplace like? Is there an opportunity for you? Is there, do you have competitors? Those sorts of things. And the detail of that is what Bill will get into. But I think from a mentoring point of view, what you have to establish with the mentee is being able to frame their idea into a form where it can be tested, where you can go out and get the data. It has to be, you have to sort of give them the environment, the landscape where they can start talking about this stuff. And if they don't actually see things that way, then that's the mentor's role to help them get into that mindset.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense, Chris. And Bill, under this part of the slide, opportunity identification, how would you approach this question?
Yeah, this is where you start putting your new insights to the test. So for instance, maybe you have an insight that, hey, my customer is making bad financial decisions because they lack basic financial education. That's an insight. So as you're hearing that, you're probably saying, well, hey, that sort of points to a solution, doesn't it? Yes, it does. That's why it's a good insight. So in the opportunity space, then we coach to say, okay, not specifically, but generally, what types of concepts will help your customer if in fact that's the case. So an opportunity space here would be education. Now that's not a product, that's not something I can drop in front of them yet, but it's a space now that I can ideate around and say, okay, what are the different ways I could educate someone? Knowing what I know about the customer, what are they most likely to grab onto because of what I've learned?
Great answers, chaps. This is really good. The next question I'm going to put up, I really like this question. This is a very good question. How do I know if an assumption's risky? So Chris, you're asked this by a mentee. How do you know if an assumption's risky here?
I think by definition, anything the mentee says is an assumption. So you have to test all of those assumptions. And one way of doing that is something called the clean language model. Well, what you do is you say, okay, what is it that the mentee thinks about this particular aspect of their startup? And then you just keep asking the question, well, why do you think that? and you just drill down several levels, and then you end up with a kind of base level understanding of what it is that that assumption is, and then you can test that. And is essentially what you need to do as a mentor is to eliminate the wishful thinking and make sure that people are basing anything that they think about their startup based on data and known facts. But I guess Bill will go into the details of what all of that means.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great answer, Chris. Great answer. Risky assumptions, Bill. Risky assumptions. I mean, we all make them as entrepreneurs, don't we? Because we fall in love with our products, we fall in love with our ideas, and we make some pretty risky assumptions because we're in love.
Right. And the other problem is we don't account for behavioral economics. We assume regular economics, which is rational people making rational decisions. That just doesn't happen. Behavioral economics is about irrational people making irrational decisions, emotion-based decisions. So we'll say things like, they should want this. Well, that's in a rational world, but there are all kinds of emotional things that can stop your customer from accessing your value proposition. So in this space here, as sort of a coach mentor, what you do is you take your assumptions, the things that you assume or that your customer has to be willing to do to access your value proposition, and you can put them in a 2x2, where on the y-axis you've got important versus not important, and then in the x-axis you've got known versus unknown. And in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to have the important, unknown, risky assumptions, and that's how you prioritize going out and testing them. And testing them will be in the next step.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer actually, because it's being able to, where do we categorize them, and that's a really good way of explaining it. So
it's a disciplined approach.
Absolutely. So the last of our questions that we've set up to be answered really is about experiments, and this is the part I guess I do most of when I'm helping with idea validation, the area I'm most passionate about, the experiments part of this, and in particular, sort of behavioral experiments. So, Chris, you're asked this as a mentor, what kind of experiments?
Well, again, I mean, you're wanting people to run, with a scientific method, kind of about being open-minded about the dynamic, experiments that they do. And an experiment can be something like developing an MVP and testing that, or doing some prototyping. It could be doing some A/B testing. It could be doing some customer interviews. It could be running a pilot of some sort. So all of these things you're actually engaged with in real situations, doing real things. But you have to, as the mentor, make sure that people are continuing to be objective and not put their own spin on things, collecting data, getting insights, going back to our previous question. And the whole thing is a kind of agile, continual process. And again, going back to the thing about not launching too quickly, just making sure you're absolutely 100% certain that you've got everything right before you launch into the big bad world. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Excellent. Bill?
Yeah, so this is where it all comes together. So let's use our financial education, or our ill-educated consumer example on financial education. So here's where we put out a hypothesis, like Chris was saying, we follow the scientific method. If we do X, and X is something that came out of the opportunity spaces. So we talked about education. So maybe we're going to offer them a PDF about basic money management. Okay, so if we do X, if we offer them this PDF, customer will do Y. That is the thing that we expect them to do, which is to download it or to open it or to do some sort of call to action. And then we say for reason Z, and reason Z goes back to the insights. It's the insight. The insight here was people are ill-educated and they know it. Okay, so customer, if we give them the PDF, they will open it and do something because they know they're ill-educated. And that's what we test. So we give them the thing, we test their behavior. We test the behavioral economics. Will they actually do it? We know they should do it because they should become better at becoming better educated on their finances. But will they do it? Because that's all that matters. A product that should be good for people isn't necessarily a product that we could release to the world.
Excellent, excellent. I'll just hide those questions for a second. I mean, guys, that's the essence of really being an entrepreneur. Experimenting. Actually, these whole, as we've got on the screen here, these 5 questions, these 5 areas, are the essence really of a business, of being an entrepreneur in a business, and that's part of what we do as 12 Ronnies. We're here to help entrepreneurs create businesses. I mean, when I get asked what do you do, I help people build businesses. I help people start businesses. I help people launch businesses. It's all around that, helping do it. And there's 2 areas that we do that in. This area, which is, have you got a good business idea? How do you know if you've got a good business idea? How do you know if you've got a business idea that's going to make you money? Well, customers are going to tell you that. And it's all about early engagement with customers, not building products. So these areas are really key, and they need to be done before we do the next stage in helping people start a business. The next stage we do is we help them build a plan that they can launch and make money from, that they can execute from. But we can't do that until we've done with them customer discovery, or they've done customer discovery and have got evidence that it's a good idea, an idea people are willing to pay for. So it's the main entrepreneurial activity, which is different to being a creator in a business. It's different to building a product or a brand. So it's this is the area we most like to work on at 12 Ronnies. Now, before sort of we go into maybe any more detail in this, and discuss this a bit further, if people have questions, if you're in one of the live streams, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook Live, or on LinkedIn, it'd be wonderful if you could post your questions in the comments, and we'll have a go at answering them, or we'll do our best. It'd be nice to have some questions from the outside. If not, we've got some more that we can run through here in the remaining 10 minutes or so. So while I'm waiting for some questions to come through, I've got just on this area, guys, of validating ideas, and in terms of the whole customer discovery part, I often get asked, well, do I really need to do that? Because if I build a brilliant product and I know it's brilliant and it's all about what, the product, people will come. I've heard, the Henry Ford quotes and all of these ones. And, if I build a world-class product, people will come. What would you say, both as a mentor and a validator? Feel free to whoever wants to start on that one.
I mean, I may as well start because I've been doing the mentoring stuff first. I mean, I just think that goes back to the question we had about assumptions, really. That person is making the assumption on no evidence that the thing's going to be successful. So they're telling you something subjective when actually what they need to do is to find some objective data and then build insights on that. So as the mentor, I guess what you'd be doing is gently suggesting that that we agree that we're going to go and find out whether or not that assumption is correct. So yeah. I could go on, but I'm sure Bill.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, the one mentoring question that I keep asking to people is, how do you know? And then you can take it one further. Would you take out a second mortgage on your house to launch this product based on what you know? That tends to bring things together. And again, it's the behavioral economics thing. People are the creator is thinking in terms of regular economics. People should want this. They want this. That this is a problem. This will solve their problem. But the consumer has many other things that are creating noise that turn into a behavioral economics problem. But the question then becomes, can your customer access your value proposition? Because there might be all kinds of cultural or physical barriers that keep them from doing it.
Yeah, I'd just like to add one extra thing, Simon, which is one of your mantras, actually. I think if you've got this kind of mindset that everybody's going to buy my product, then you're probably also got an additional delusion that people are going to invest in your startup before you sold anything. And they're not going to do that. So what you need to do is to actually start selling things, get some data, and then you might get some investment. And I know that's one of your things that you talk about a lot, that actually, nobody's going to spend their money on your wild goose chase idea.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever about this, but we see so much within our community, within our mentoring community at 12 Ronnies, when we say, well, look, you're looking to launch a business, and how can we help you? We can offer to mentor you or coach you on idea validation and write business plan, launch plans for you. And invariably what comes back is, well, actually what I'm looking for is investment. And they're at the idea stage. And I think I've stopped saying this now because it doesn't sound very polite, but I think to myself, so you're looking for somebody to fund your great idea using their own money that you can't prove anybody wants. And I've, over the years, I've boiled that down to, but where I think that may come on in the mindset side of things is, because there is so much risk and uncertainty in this area, that founders are wary of going all in, of spending all their money on launching, and they'd rather spend a bit of somebody else's money, because they can't be certain. If it involves giving away some equity, they're happy to do that, because they can't be certain. It's very risky, and they don't want to go all in. But that's obviously not what you want to say to an investor. So there's a whole dynamic taking place there. So yeah, Chris, to answer that. And we got a question actually in the let me put the question up to show.
Julie's got a great question.
Yeah, this is a great question. Let me see if I can also now alter the screen so we don't need this slide up here now. So yeah. So question, Bill, do you want to have a go at this? What are your thoughts on the value of post-product launch surveys to your customers?
I get in trouble talking about surveys every time I talk about them, so I will temper my comments today. I see surveys in general as a step zero to any process, and not because it's worthless, but because it's the step before everything else. You can send out your survey to your customers or to your prospects or whatever you want, but remember, surveys are always filled out aspirationally, and they're filled out in sort of a hypothetical way, because there's a lot of hypothetical questions in surveys. But what a survey can do for you is give you the places where you need to look, because the saying is, you can't interview a survey. Do your survey, look for where potential problems are based on the results, and then go talk to people and find out the context of those answers, because the answers to a survey will never help you with product development, improvement, or anything else by themselves, because they're just data. They don't point you, like as you said earlier, the data doesn't point you in any direction. It just tells you what's happening.
I would also add to that, Bill, because it's also a pet hate of mine, surveys, is that until people have actually used, this is about post-launch surveys. I mean, it depends how post-launch it is. If people have been using the product a lot, then being able to survey users on their experience and being able to draw from that can be quite useful. But surveys at the pre-launch stage and to back what up you say, are almost worthless, are almost worse than you're better off not doing them than actually doing them. And I mean, I'm also with what I'm doing with some of the things that we're launching at 12 Ronnies. I'm using quizzes to segment audiences rather than survey them about what they think about something. I'm asking them questions so I can put them into an audience, into a category. Are they, where do they fit in the life cycle? Are they trying to validate their ideas? Are they really at the idea stage? Are they ready to launch? What regions of the world are they in? So they're answering questions, quiz questions. It's not really a survey, so that we can target messages and target what we offer to an audience. But asking asking people questions, what if questions in a survey is very dangerous. So great question there about surveys.
I think the other problem with surveys is that they tend to feed your assumptions. So you're going back into that cycle of maybe getting the wrong idea about something from a survey and then going full steam ahead in the wrong direction. So
brilliant. Okay, we're running now last few minutes on the call. So it'd be if anybody has any questions, this is your time to ask them. And if you prefer to just leave them afterwards, we'll attempt to. They'll go into the comments. We can have a go at answering them via text. Chris,
yeah,
Bill, before we go, is there anything in this area you want to talk about? Is there anything that you haven't elaborated on, or something you want to mention in the last few minutes that could be useful to the audience?
I'd quite like to expand on that last question a little bit, in that before you launch, there is a lot of value in running alpha and beta tests. So you can actually get information from real people who are going to give you the truth before you launch. And that's quite useful. And also, once you've actually got some customers and they've, as you were saying, they've started to use your products or your service, their feedback at that point is actually quite valuable. So, can they give you a review? Is there a testimonial you can put on your website? And I guess from a mentoring point of view, actually getting people to do that and create a process that they can design to actually do that efficiently, maybe through an email sequence or some kind of staged process that they can follow up with people, and maybe even build a community around the product or the service so that people can talk to each other and share experiences, that kind of thing. Thanks, Chris. Very useful. Very useful. Bill, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll echo that. Is some of the most important experiments you'll do after you release your product are in that space of, can I build passion in my customers? So can I do something that gets them to refer me to other potential customers? Can I get them to talk about me on social media? And those are things where, again, you give them some sort of stimulus, and then you test to see if they're willing to do that. And what it does is this tells you how valuable the product is to that particular customer, and it allows you to build what's called the engine of growth. The engine of growth is where you don't have to spend marketing dollars to buy additional customers. You've got customers going out and doing that work for you, which is what you have to do. You can never build a giant business through marketing. You have to have people talking to each other. You have to have them sharing it, bearing the load, using their credibility, because you don't have any, because you're just selling a product. So that's the super fun step after the release is, okay, what are the experiments I could run to generate that? Will people take leadership in a community? I won't start it, but would somebody else do it? Do we have customers who are willing to do these amazing things for us for nothing?
Thank you so much, gentlemen. This has been a really good session. Some great questions answered, and what we're going to do after this is we'll post this video, the full video, to our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. So the two 12 Ronnies YouTube and Facebook channels. It'll also be on my LinkedIn page under the live streams. So you can watch that at any stage. We'll also ask our friendly AI to cut up this into segments, and daily we'll post a segment. Normally they cut it up into answering about a particular question. But a reminder for everybody, we run these at the same time every week for half an hour. So you're welcome to join us or ask questions prior to it that we can answer. And feel free to utilize our knowledge. We also have a community which you can find at 12ronnies.com. So you can come and meet other mentors and hear more about idea validation or business plans or anything to do with launching a business. So thank you very much, everybody. And we'll hopefully see you next week.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.